Well, as Todd alluded, the kickoff for the campaign today for the renovation is today. And I'm very, very excited to tell you that we are halfway to our goal. So thanks to all of you who have contributed. And I encourage all of you who have yet to make your gift to the renovation campaign to think about what it might be. And we'll be calling on some of you, and we would love to hear any concerns you might have or questions about the renovation. So remember, we need to get these in because we want to start the construction in January and finish up by Easter, which will be very, very exciting. So thank you. And John's going to tell you some really interesting things that he's discovered as our church historian.
Hardly the historian. I spend lots of times looking at images and studying our town, the region, focused mostly in shipyards, as many of you know. But I want to share a few things with you about our church community over literally the last 2 centuries and how, when they were faced with opportunity and challenges, they raised to the occasion. The image that you're looking at is our founding church. It was in Boothbay Center. Sometime in the 1760s it started. John Murray was the pastor. And they went through the Revolutionary War, and then as the country formed itself up into the 1790s, it became a Congregational church. And there it was. When the century changed, things weren't really going well for Maine. You remember you had Mr. Jefferson's embargo and Mr. Madison's little war of 1812, and the economy of Maine was actually suffering quite a while. But very quickly in the 1820s, 30s, and really in the 1840s, lots of things happened positive for Maine and Boothbay. The lumber industry, shipbuilding was booming here in town, and the commercial village that used to depend on Wiscasset came into its own. Around 1840, several of the founders and people very active in that community, their names are on that 1880 window over there, Mr. John Weymouth and his wife Elizabeth, Margaret Blair, and Mr. Holton, another shipbuilder, got together and they said, we really need our church home to be in the village. And they got together and they raised $1,512. And they built the room you're sitting in. Next slide there. What you're looking at is an image I'm very happy to have found. That is what they built and opened in 1848. It's nothing more than the room you're in. No lights, no heat, no water, nothing. And off they went, and they built their community. People immediately moved from the church in Boothbay, and it grew from there. The country and the state went into a big depression in 1857. That's when the shipbuilding basically stopped. Then there's something called the Civil War that took everybody's mind and purse and everything else. But once the war was over, Maine came back in gangbusters. 1870s, the Downeaster shipbuilding, the lumber industry, everything just boomed again. And the church community realized they needed this church to be more than a place to show up on Sunday morning. So what they did, if you look at the next slide, you're looking at the inside, but first, what did they do outside in 1880? They built the vestibule, narthex if you prefer, but the vestibule that you come through. They moved the steeple on top of it and raised it. They raised the roof up. So when you come down Route 27, which wasn't built until 1950, by the way, you see what we all see today, the quintessential Congregational New England church that we're all so proud of and happy to be in. More importantly, looking at the next slide, you see the interior. They built the choir loft and the dais. Think about it, 1880. The image you're looking at is 1937. The organ you see was the first organ, 1890. It was replaced in 1953, et cetera, et cetera. But the important thing is the dais came to where you see this wall. We call that wall with lots of love, right? And that wasn't there. But what's so important about it architecturally is what was going on the dais. It was lower. There are bleachers up here that the choir sits on. They weren't there. It was lower. It was open. There was one more set of pews. What I'm standing on wasn't here. Whatever was going on up here was linked with the sanctuary. We were one. 1937, you see in the picture, they're actually doing a skit. In other words, the church community used this building for all kinds of things. The next major move was talked about briefly. In 1990, they raised the church up, moved it back into the parking lot, dug out to build Fellowship Hall. That was the main reason. And when they moved the church back, they set it down. So since 1990, we have what you all know of today. And yes, 10 years ago, we added the chapel. When the church group got together, the leadership, and asked the music people and the different committees, where are we today? Where are we going? What do we need? They all came together and said, we need to get where what's going on up here is really connected with what's down there. Wouldn't it be nice if the chapel was really part of this and not just a storage room for the bell choir? And what they came up with, if you look to the next slide, this is an architect's rendering. And don't get too excited because it's an architect on a computer trying to show you what you think you want. And the first thing you see are the red flashy chairs. No. You see the chairs, they're staying. All right? But what's important is getting to the primary requirements of what is a congregational church. It's natural materials. The pews you're sitting in were wood varnished until 1960. The floors were wood, always. And starting in 1930s, they started to wear out. Wouldn't it be nice to have a wooden floor, someone plays the piano, and you could actually hear it in the back of the church without a microphone? So some of these things are driven by the program. Some of them are by getting all these spaces to work together. Retain the architectural charm of our wonderful building. And be able to have more flexibility. Now you see those tables? Well, you see our bell choir down here. That's a new home, but they won't always be there. The Christmas tree will go there. Won't it be nice when the kids come up here to visit the pastor or do a pageant that you can actually see them? So I'm very excited about this. I hope to get some of you excited about it, and please join us. Thank you.